And ladies and gentlemen, men and women of all ages, we'd like to introduce you to Conversations with the Mafia, live from Denver, Colorado, 6 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Welcome back to another Conversation with the Mafia, live edition.
Oh, we on right now? Yo, what's up, everybody?
Coach is over here thinking I'm just clowning.
I thought you was really clowning, bro. Like, here we go.
I was just having fun with it. Welcome in to another Conversation with the Mafia live edition. Tuesday, like we promised, that we get on board and, just kind of talk about some current topics before we can jump into our lesson or our actual podcast for the evening.
Yeah, you guys would really want to tune into this podcast. It drops not this week, but the following week of what we're going to speak about tonight.
We're about 2-3 weeks out.
We're 2-3 weeks out?
Yeah, we're about a couple
I don't know.
weeks
We
out.
may mix this thing up and stuff because what God put on my heart on this one coming up is pretty deep and it's pretty good. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see where the Lord leads us to it. But I want to welcome everybody in right now that is with us live. Chris usually goes live on his Facebook and invites everybody through, which I'm really glad that he does that. Everybody that's part of the Kingdom Focus group, we still haven't tapped into that particular one for our Facebook to launch it live what we got going. But we will next week. At this point, again, I want to welcome everybody again. Thank you for supporting us and coming out and talking to us. There's a couple other places that I want to talk about tonight. And one of the subjects I said is that if you guys did have a business or anything, please reach out to us. Hit us right now on the page and let us know what your business is, who you are, and let us try to give you guys support in that area. With that being said, I want to give a shout out to Ghetto Tattoos. Ghetto Tattoos, that's right. It's called Ghetto Tattoos.
If you ain't ghetto, you ain't getting a tattoo.
Well, it's a really tattoo place, bro.
No, I know.
And so their motto was like, we don't turn down no bad tattoo. If you have a bad tattoo, you want a bad tattoo, we give you a bad tattoo. And I was like, really? What you talking about, man? So I started trying to clown with him about it and stuff. I was like, do y'all finance? Y'all take financing? I got to get a co-signer on my tattoo? What's going on, bro?
We don't need no parent sign off, but we need a credit check.
And yo, dude was like, hey, I'm mobile. You can come and get you mobile.
It's almost like I got the hookup with Master P. Slinging phones out the sunroof of an abandoned car. Shout out to Ghetto Tattoos.
Ghetto Tattoos, where your blowouts are on the house, straight lines are not a must. And we're just gonna see what happens with it, man. But my
big
dude
ups.
was like,
big ups to Ghetto Tattoos.
Yeah, man.
Make sure Ghetto Tattoos. Make sure you guys chime in on this. And,
my man, Ghetto Tattoos. Do y'all take EBT? I mean, y'all gonna get paid in EBT?
Hey, I'm just letting you know now. I know nothing about it. Nothing. So, but welcome in, everybody. We got this shared out. Make sure if you're joining in, make sure you hit the share button. Throw a like in there to help the algorithm. But make sure you share this out with somebody that maybe just needs to be introduced to us. And as we're clowning on the live edition, we could draw them into the actual podcast. I got a couple comments on the last couple.
Okay.
With the wrap it up or it's a wrap, and so far with the last one that we did, who's got your six? I think a lot of people kind of took that. Like a couple people got it that was like, yeah, that's deep, and then a couple people were like trying to correct us on the scripture. And on my
I knew that was coming.
And on my live driving down here tonight, I went ahead and kind of addressed that. TJ, what's happening? Welcome in. And
yo, TJ.
Hightail Pet Saloon. Thank you for joining. But I kind of got in there, and I'm going to say it on here again, too. Like, check it out, man. This is Brother Chris, Coach Marcus. We're not Pastor Chris and, Bishop Marcus. We're two dudes talking about issues that men have. And sometimes it's cool because the women kind of relate to it, and sometimes their point of view gives us a little more instinct of what the dude's missing or what we may not be missing. But the general topic of what we discuss are just conversation starters. Like, so I think on one of the clips I commented on, do you guys have anyone that can take you to church? And I gave the short sample of when the guys took the paralyzed guy to see Jesus. And because I didn't say he ripped a hole and, got all detailed with it, But the base of the story was there, and what I was trying to say is like, do you have any friends like that? Not the actual example of what they did for their friend, but just somebody that would, like, when you're stressing, instead of taking you to a bar, can they take you to Wednesday night service? Can they take you from the strip club maybe to confession if that's your get down? But you know what I mean? Like, that was the whole purpose of that. And, I appreciate it. And I responded and, hey, right on for the comments. But like, some of these comments are trying to get jabby. You know what I mean?
I'm okay with it, man. Because he who was without sin cast the first stone. And I'll just leave it like that. It's okay. I understand they're trying to engage, and some of these guys want to be, Sunday school corrector. Let me grade your papers. Let me find out where you're at. You didn't get that scripture right. You didn't say this right. Your grammar's off, and all those things. The truth of the fact is that this is just a conversation, and we're recording this conversation. And if it sets with you and you get something out of it, great. If it doesn't, and you want to chime in and try to have some triggers come on, man, the first thing I'm going to do is see this thing pop up, and I'm going to pray for you. And I'm going to pray real hard for you. Real hard. Enough that I'm going to ask God to send what needs to be sent your way to humble your heart, to fix what needs to be fixed so that you get into the kingdom and stop walking on this earth like you're high and mighty than everybody else, but into the kingdom is what matters.
See, the old Chris wants to be petty and just answer it back with another petty jab. But and it's cool because I respect everybody's opinion. You know what I mean? And if you just get the thumbs up, that's just because there's probably nothing nice to say back. And I just think, that's my way of saying thank you without saying anything. But, again, these are just conversation starters. It's just two dudes sitting down with some cameras on, doing our part to contribute back to our brothers that, don't have these conversations, or, maybe are missing certain conversations, or, can maybe just take what we're talking about to help them process what, maybe they're afraid to bring up to their own crowd. And this is an open outlet with, where you could be anonymous and, hide behind a fake screen name and do whatever you got to do. But I mean, I figure if it triggers you, then we're doing something right. And, if
that's what I said, I'm cool with that.
And anyone that corrects us, if they're in the Denver metro area and your church is perfect, let me know, because I'd like to come witness that.
Yo, anybody in the Denver area want to chime in on this? Come on and hit us up. We would more than welcome you down here.
Yeah, totally. And I know one of these times that we're going to get anyone that's in the comments weekly, if they just want to chime in with a question or just, give a live shout out, I'm going to try to figure a way to get that computer to let them in. But
fine. I said that today about, especially with ghetto tattoos. I find it funny, but I'll tell you this thing, since we're on this live. I ended up talking to the criminal element.
Oh, the criminal element.
Criminal element out there about when he actually watched the podcast, and the one that he watched, and he was like, man, I felt like you guys were just addressing me. And I was like, you know what? Don't think that way. Sometimes the things that we're talking about, it is God that's moving on you. And those things I had happened myself, and I put myself in that position. Like, I'll be sitting up in the church, and it was like all of a sudden the preacher's preaching this, and I'm like, yo, did somebody call him on the phone?
Right.
Tell him what I'm going through? And it's just God moving and saying, hey, ears up, listen up. Receive what I'm trying to talk to you about.
A lot of people got to remember, too, we cut these podcasts anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time. So if you're seeing it now and it's just disturbing you, that's something else. Rampage, welcome in to the chat.
Up?
Big ups to HHG.
Rampage?
They did the Juneteenth thing this weekend.
Oh, yeah, man.
Had a great
had a great turnout.
Yeah, great event. Looking forward to seeing the gig log and the clips that he's putting up of all the DJs. So big ups to HHG for tuning in and supporting. But you know what? For this short little live, can we get into something that I had to do this weekend? And I just want to talk about the growth, the community, and where we're failing in my eyes. And I may get this wrong, and I may not. But we had a gentleman named Nathan Leister that, in mad respect to him, his family, and the community. And I don't know all the details, so respectfully if I get this wrong, but I just want to speak what's on my heart about this. And my man was battling addiction, and he was winning. And the reason I want to bring this up is because it gets into these real conversations that we got to have and stay in assignment.
Well, pop into it, bro.
And anybody that's dealt with addiction knows that you're already kind of in the depths of hell, depending on how your addiction was. And being part of the Beyond the Struggle podcast and hearing some testimonies there, and sharing and helping do some of the things there, but also knowing people in life that's overcome it, and then people who are still battling it. And we get into these living homes, and I don't want to title them wrong, so I'm just going to call them living homes. But we get into these homes that have I believe the base foundation is correct, but the whole thing for me, right, is recovery is grace, because God's given you a second chance, maybe a third or fourth chance, maybe even a seventh or eighth chance, but if we're doing this right, and just like this men's group, if somebody reached out to us and we just acted like, hey, bro, you didn't chime in on the live, I can't talk to you. But like if something was to happen where it's a little off key, and we got to shift a little to make something happen, or God forbid, an altercation, and I get it totally that there's rules and there's regulations, but when do we start to look at the progress of the individual and the possibility of where they'll go if we don't look into that grace in that little gray area? So like if somebody breaks a rule and it's an honest rule, like they break something or they didn't pick something up, or they get into a scuffle, an argument, and you can't say when people are going through rehab and resetting their mind that they're fully firing on all cylinders. But to kick somebody out of the program, and not like, okay, like I could understand like the first, second week of doing this is all brand new in the city. Everybody's still getting up, but there's a sober living house on every other block almost now. You know what I mean? Like these things are bigger than 7-Elevens now. Why can't we contribute and collaborate with someone that's close by to say, because I guarantee you if they run out of food, or if they like, hey, power's out and you got power and we don't, can we come kick it at your spot, or can we combine a program to, alleviate, like you got air, we don't right now. You know what I mean? But how come we could do that, but we can't when, like, okay, this dude got into a scuffle and we just pushed him out? Like, what? Like, you go from, like, giving someone shelter and calling it God's work. You know what I mean? A lot of people will say that. And then all of a sudden there's no God no more. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, okay, you use 1, 2, 3, you're out, and want to go back to tough love. But Jesus never portrayed tough love. He showed mercy and grace. And I'm not saying that, okay, now we start letting them party in the house and we start doing this and that. But okay, like if this dude was showing progression and had a little bump in the road, why can't we shift something to like, hey, bro, can this guy level up with you? And then when things work back out, come back here and give them a chance to rebuild and recoup rather than just push them back out. Because what happens when you push people back out when they're dealing in that situation? They go back to the street.
Well, I agree. I understand exactly what you're talking about there. There's rules and regulations to certain things in certain houses, and I get what you're talking about. A lot of these homes that are dealing with substance abuse and stuff like that, and these people come into these homes, do they deserve a lot of mercy and grace and help and directions? Even though you got certain rules they have to abide by and stuff, can you see past them? I also understand where the state and other people that have these things, and they're like, if I let one person slide, then the next person's going to slide, and the next person, and the next person. What Chris is basically asking is like, where's the catch net? Whereas if somebody does break that rule, where's the catch net to say, okay, this is your write-up, this is it. You're not automatically kicked out of the program and things like that. Where does it stop? What I like to talk about is that when we see a lot of these institutions and these things happening, most of these people don't fear God that are running these things. They don't have that mercy and grace in them, or they once did at one time and they got stepped on so much that they're like, okay, I'm this way now because I allowed so many things to happen and it just got worse and worse. So is there a right and the wrong way behind it? I think there needs to be catch things involved, like you just said. Right. You may have got kicked out of this house, but let's get you to this other house because you're having an issue.
And I mean, it's just like jail, right? they put you into a program, and then when you violate that program, you go somewhere. And if it's a state-ran facility, how come the state don't have a backup plan for this? Like I get it. Really, I mean, like let's just be honest. I'm glad there's these programs, because when I was going through it, there wasn't. There was a select few houses, and if you didn't have top-notch medical to pay for it, you got a 3-day bed. And I was like, I could just sleep in the park for 3 days and kick this if that's what it is. But my thing is that, and I'm not just putting this on this, I'm talking our friends too. You know what I mean? And this gets bigger, because you know what? You witness people say, man, that was my boy. And then again, I get it, because, you can't have your whole community on your couch. But when are we going to start to identify the ones that are doing it and just had a little hiccup and just need some support? You know what I mean? Like, hey, bro, come over here tonight, do this or do that. And I'm not saying that, like all of a sudden now, like, oh, Brother Chris said that and this is this. I get it, because if I was running a program, I would probably have to realize that, like what you just said, people get stepped on. But it's a conversation we got to have.
No, it really is a conversation that we got to have. And like you said, let's tie that into generalization into anything. Let's not just talk it into whether you're dealing with a substance abuse home, a group home, jail, or anything like that. Your homie, your kid, your cousin, your niece, your nephew, all those people. When you start seeing them progressively doing good, okay, they may have a stumble or something and there's a drawback. That doesn't mean you cut them all off and being like, okay, you're back to doing what you needed to do. No, you took one little step back, which is ironic, because which is really ironic to me is the church. The church, not kingdom-minded folk, because I told you guys, and I said it plenty of times before, there's a difference between kingdom-minded folk and church folk. The reason why kingdom-minded folk look at it, because they're like, I slipped like that before. I've done this before. I did this before, and God still came back and restored me. Christ-like.
Right.
And me and somebody was having a talk about that today. Like, what does it mean to be a Christian? And that's one of the subjects that I was talking about on Sunday in our 4-week course at our church. I was talking about, and we were having a class about it. Like, what does it mean to be a Christian? Christ-like. When somebody slips up and stuff, like even when that woman that was caught in adultery, my first thought when I heard that, I was like, where was the dude? You only paying the woman? Where was the dude at? Right?
Right.
But he turned around and said, hey, he was without sin, cast the first stone. And showed mercy and grace and told that woman, just don't go do it no more. Why are we so quick to pound a stone on everybody and not realize some of the stuff that we went through? And I appreciate that you were saying that, because, yeah, the state has certain things, but family members also know that they have other family members that have taken advantage of certain things in certain ways. But where does the grace and mercy
and
that you extended so much? And when there's a point where you're like, okay, I'm done extending that grace and mercy?
I would imagine, and see, I could imagine that by the time an individual like myself makes it to rehab, I've already burned every bridge in the family.
There you go.
And I respect that.
There you go.
Because like, at some point boundaries have to be set.
Correct.
And this is what's happening, right? So like when and I'm just going to use me so it's not offensive to nobody. If I was to go from house to house, everybody in each house has their own opinion of how they need to play God with me. You know what I mean? And the problem that I experienced, and I'm sure anyone else that's going to chime in or watch this later is going to come in and say, you know what? I did too. Because like someone wants to play tough love. My brother was like, if I just ignore you, you know what I mean? You're going to see. Or if I cut you off, again, that works for some. You know what I mean? Like when you take all resources away and they panic. But that's by manipulation. That's not by transformation. That's not by restoration. That is by fear and manipulation. Because when you start to manipulate the thing, like, well, I'm not going to feed you if you're going to keep doing that. But then they're going to keep doing it and not eat. And then, so what did you do? Now you just built a bigger wedge between you and the individual. And like I said, I get it. Every dynamic of this is touchy because
but yo, let me stop you real quick there. So this is the conversation that we're starting, and he's going to pick up right where he started off. But everybody that's watching right now, I'd love for you guys just to drop in the comments of what you think about what we're talking about. Is it something that you experienced with your family member or anything like that? And what was some of the things that you've seen where you're like, okay, I gave enough of this, and what was your thoughts about what we're talking about right now? If you're watching live, just drop something in there. But go ahead, Brother Chris. I just wanted to reach out there and have our audience engaged.
And the main thing that what I'm getting at is this is past what the family could do. Because like the family, I exhausted all leads with my family. And to be honest with you, my family couldn't comprehend what I needed anyway. Like they couldn't grasp that the hurt that I was going through, the mental unstable season I was in, because I always portrayed I was good, right? I always lied and I'm fine, I'm good. And
here comes the mask.
And I let it snowball so long to where I was acting out. I mean, there was a time when my dad said something and I popped my knife and I was like, I'll gut you, like keep messing with me, because my mind and my emotions were all over the place. And but when you get into a program, okay, that's like going to an auto body shop. You can't say I can fix Hyundais, Kias, and Chevys, but Fords can't fix you. You got to go somewhere else. Or like, oh, we just found out this has rust. We can't fix you. Like what happens is then they outsource, right? And that's my point, is that, okay, some people need that stable structure. And while it's working, now we're human. You can't expect to go in and you click a switch and there's no emotions.
Yeah, but not all of it is going to. And so I'm going to hit this right now. I'm not going to put out any names other than AZ. Shout out AZ for watching in right now. You know, post up something, AZ. Here's a comment. I honestly had a hard time in sober living. I was in there about 3 months, only because for me, I needed more structure, more accountability, just like my brother Chris was talking about. And I feel like when I went to sober living, the rules weren't followed well. Again, there was somebody that at a certain different sober house, the structure, the discipline, and all wasn't there, and was like, this didn't work for me. But to another place, when they're putting that thump down, it's working. And that's where we have to say what you just said before, like, okay, this one didn't work at this house. Why didn't we get them to this house over here where it's a little bit something that they needed? And
see, they also said I was also scared of my own shadow, so the constant relapsing in the room made me uncomfortable. But see, like this is that right there. So it didn't come out of my mouth, but it was exactly my point. I was
correct.
So they're not hardcore on not bringing the drugs and alcohol in the house or coming in under the influence, but because there's an altercation. I'm letting you know now. If you think there's none of this happening in jail, it happens. Mm-hmm. But see, this ain't a correctional setting, and I get it. Like, you know, Pastor, and I get what Pastor said completely. Like, you know, there's rules and regulations, and they could lose funding. But what I'm saying is, how do we brainstorm as a community to lobby or to get the seed planted to where, if they're not that hardcore on the drugs and alcohol coming into the sober house, then how come the emotion and the psychological thing that goes? Because obviously now, if dude just stood up and dropped homeboy and was like, what? Yeah, that he's got to go, because he's obviously there's other stuff.
You're walking around and you're being a bully.
Yeah,
and
like,
all those
you
things.
look like me in my girdle shirt, trying to act like you're buff. But what I'm saying though is that those people aren't getting kicked out that are doing that. But the one guy, and see, and my main point and why I wanted to get into this and do it on the podcast platform is because, see, this is spiritual.
Okay. I'll let you dive in there because that's all I see it as.
Right.
And that's one of the hard things that I was having a discussion with somebody the other day. I was like, and some people will tell you this: when you're woke, you woke. So when you're woke, which means that you don't look at life the same way ever again.
Right.
When you start seeing everything with spiritual eyes, everything looks totally different. It doesn't mean that you're higher and above everybody, but you begin to see things totally different than what you've seen them before. And you're right. I'm going to let you touch on it, how you seen it was more spiritual.
Because, see, when I was going from active addiction for 5+ years, every day, hardcore with it, no drum, like no cap, no, like honestly, attempting to off myself with it, to getting sober. And I did a cold turkey because I didn't qualify for none of these programs. And back then there wasn't too many programs going. Mm-hmm. and experiencing all the tough love from family that, like, if I just cut you off, there's no big deal. But what I'm saying is that you come from the graps of hell from depending on the psychological drugs that you took, because a lot of people think that they're doing that. And for my drug of choice, it made people very delusional. It made people see things. But what I see now after getting out of that, right, is that I was seeing things correctly because see, I was woke to it. Like as soon as I said I'm done with this and God touched me, I couldn't say rehab did it. I couldn't say anybody else did it. It was God's doing. So right off the bat, now I got a double whammy, right? Because I got God behind me, and the enemy lost their grip on me. And now I'm going to church. So now I got the triple threat on me, right? I got the spiritual attack. I got this. I got that. And but we don't understand this, but we're in those situations. You got to start like seeing, because as you start asking for the Lord to walk you, the enemy's already got permission to test you.
See, that's where I was at with this whole situation, because I met a gentleman and I seen what was going on, and I seen the change. Let's put it that way. I seen the change. But I also knew that at that point in time, like, this is where I tell everybody, when you start to come to God, you really need to have a mentor with you in your life, helping you walk you through some of these things. Not everybody, but most of the people. And this is why I say everything about as in terms that there's a difference between kingdom-minded folk and church folk, because kingdom-minded folk are going to drop to their knees and get into intercessory prayer for this person because they know the battle that's coming. All right, they already know that once the enemy's got his grips on a person and God gets to release that, God makes that enemy release his grips, he goes out and gets 7 words, or he ties things in to make you just slip and fall. And go ahead. No. And so I know it's a hard situation for some people to take and understand that part, but if you look back on your life, especially those that got free from a lot